The GPT Builder is live. Let me show you how to quickly build GPTs to automate your life, your business, and whatever else you want AI to handle for you. Automate the grind, free the mind, or something. So step one, head over to this website, chat.openai.com/GPTs/editor, or if you do chat.openai.com/create, that just forwards you there. So I'll leave those in the description. Click on one of those and it'll take you here. On the right, you will have a preview of what your GPT will look like. On the left, you have the messaging window with the GPT Builder. So this is the GPT that will help you build your GPT. So from everything I've seen, just chatting back and forth with the GPT Builder, starting with a basic idea and slowly iterating on it, slowly adding certain functionality to it, works pretty well. GPT Builder is pretty good at creating that idea, using whatever knowledge it has to get all the functionality and whatever else you need to make your idea a reality, your GPT a reality. So before getting too fancy, I would just try chatting with it and see if it can get you to where you want to go. Let's start with this. First of all, have you ever had this happen to you? You go to Costco and you buy some tires, some pianos, some salmon, some refrigerators, some desks. You charge it to your card and then it shows up on your credit card statement. It just says Costco, $10,000 or whatever. If you're trying to track your expenses and assign categories, that can be quite a mess. You have your itemized receipt, but in the past, you would have to manually sit down and walk through line by line and figure out what each one of those items, what category goes into. Can we have a GPT for that? So I'm going to say create a GPT that will help me upload an image of my receipt and read all the items on it and categorize them, and also total up the expenses by categories. All right, let's start there. Let's see where that goes. So I told GPT Builder to do that. I clicked OK, and it's building. Meanwhile, let's go hunt for a Costco receipt. Bingo bongo. Let's take this one. So here's a Costco receipt. It's not great quality, but it's not bad. I could pretty easily, once I get to my car, put the receipt down on the dashboard or whatever, snap a picture of my phone. I mean, now that I think about it, this is pretty good quality, but it's got the line through it. It's got a few folds. So let's start here and see how it does. So GPT Builder comes back and says, great, let's give your GPT a name that reflects its purpose and functionality. How about expense tracker? Brilliant. Do you like this name? Yes, I do. So it names it expense tracker, and now it's generating a profile picture for my image. That's pretty good. Now, if you wanted to change the image, make it a logo, you can upload your own logo, whatever you want. So now it's asking me questions to kind of flesh out my idea. So it's saying, what kind of a role is it going to have? Is it personal shopping, business expenses, or both? So we're going to say it's mostly personal. I need to separate it into categories for my monthly budget. Next, is there anything you'd like your expense tracker to avoid when categorizing and totaling expenses? So do you want to ignore certain types of purchases to avoiding complex financial jargon? Now, we can keep going back and forth. It's going to throw a couple more things at us that it might be trying to understand better, but we can always come back later and continuously update it. So for now, let's just say, no, let's go ahead and just finalize it. All right, so it's saying, okay, it's good to go to test it out. Let's upload a receipt. Let's upload a receipt indeed, and we'll say, do this one. So by the way, later on with a little bit more functionality, you can actually do this from your phone. Snap a picture of your phone and automatically have this GPT run. And from what I understand, very soon we're going to be able to attach this to things like cloud storage with Google, Google Drive, or Microsoft One, or whatever it's called. So if you have, for example, an Excel spreadsheet that's saved there, this can automatically go in and just add it to that Excel spreadsheet. All right, so here it is. Let's quickly just make sure that it's doing it correctly. So the first few items are, we have Pepsi Cola for $10.99, the wet Swiffer, I guess, $15.79. Let's take a look. So yeah, Pepsi Cola for $10.99, Swiffer Duster for $15.79. Yeah, at first glance, everything is looking very good. So it broke it down into beverages, household goods, dairy, pantry, meats, groceries, and personal care. So I would say this pretty much nailed it, at least based on the directions we gave it. But obviously, you know, if you're doing this for your actual expenses, you probably don't want a beverages category, a dairy category, whatever, meats category. You want it all under sort of groceries, food, whatever. So depending on how we want to do it, if we tell what we want to change to GPT Builder, that will change the actual GPT. We will change how this thing behaves moving forward. We will change the very essence of it. But if we just tell it here, it will probably just recategorize it, but it won't necessarily learn it for next time. So here, let me say this. Let's combine groceries, beverages, meats, dairy, etc., all into one category. Let's call it food. The rest leave as is. So it recategorized it with food, kind of putting everything into one category. Then we have household goods and personal care. Perfect. And it has totals for each. All right, so let's get back to the GPT Builder and say, once complete, let's have that added to an Excel spreadsheet that will be named with today's date and the name of the store. So we're saying that to GPT Builder so that it becomes part of the GPT's routine moving forward. All right, so it was able to update that. Let's try another receipt. So this one is a little bit worse. Still pretty clear, but there's a lot more red marks on it. Some of those people at Costco, when they're making sure you're not stealing anything when you're getting out, they just love to draw. Like that's their little passion, the thing that they were meant to do. They practice their art on your receipt. But let's see how well they do with this receipt. It's slightly more complicated, or the quality of the image is a little bit worse. Let's see. All right, so we go here, we upload the receipt. There it is. And then we're going to say, do this one. So we upload it. It says, I cannot assist with this request. We might have to bring out the big guns for this one. Emotional manipulation. I will be very sad if you don't. Please categorize my receipt. You can do it. You're an expert in categorizing Costco receipts. Send message. I'm here to help. From the image you've provided, I'll list out the items on the receipts along with the respective categories. Now, if you've been following along with some of the LLM research, large language model research, you know that this isn't a fluke. You know that there's been a number of studies showing that saying certain things can draw out these responses. Emotional statements seem to work surprisingly well with LLMs. Saying you are an expert at categorizing this thing seems to work surprisingly well. Things like take a deep breath and do it seem to work very well for complicated tasks. So once it's done, it's saying, so if you have an Excel spreadsheet ready, I can guide you through the process of entering these into it. However, as a text-based AI, I can't physically manipulate the spreadsheet for you. Please put this into a CVS spreadsheet and provide a download link. Let's see if that works. CVS, what am I thinking? CSV, comma separate values. CVS is a drugstore. I just realized I didn't finish my coffee, my Kirkland iced coffee. Are you starting to think that this whole thing is just product placement for Costco? Is it the whole point of this video is to get you to go to Costco? So it basically broke it down to where I can copy this code and put it into a text file or save it as a comma separate values file. So Excel file, basically. It tells you exactly how to do that. As I'm recording this, OpenAI servers have been getting hit with a massive DDoS attack, a denial of service attack. So at this point, what I would do is probably wait till that's over and just recreate this GPT from scratch with just one prompt. So one shot, just give it the full prompt, including the creation of the Excel spreadsheet in the beginning. And I feel like that would work a little bit better. But for the most part, as you can see, this is working pretty well. As soon as they attach the ability to integrate with Google Drive, you can even have it automatically upload to that. So you take a picture, it processes it, uploads the Excel spreadsheet or whatever to Google Drive, and you can even have it upload the image of the receipt as well. So at that point, if you lose the receipt, not only do you have data for your statements, you also have an image of the receipt. I know there's a few of you watching right now, they're like, oh my God, this is a lifesaver. If you've dealt with having to do those itemization receipts from just paper receipts, if you've had to deal with that and you know what a pain it is, this is great. All right, next, let's take a look at the configure. So here's the configure. So this is the create part where we talk back and forth to create it. Here's the configure. By the way, if you're super duper cool, you can skip the whole create thing. Just click configure and fill out the name, the description, and the instructions. We'll do that for the very next GPT that we create. Next, we have conversation starters. So that's the thing where you see when you're just beginning conversation, there might be usually 4 conversation starters that you can just click on. I feel like a better name would be just shortcuts. Like if you keep using the same thing over and over again, you just click on one of those. As you begin figuring out if it's making certain mistakes over and over again, you can actually use this section. So these are the knowledge section, additional files for this GPT to reference. And this could be a lot of different things, but you could just have a text file there that trains it how to avoid all the mistakes. And in here, we add the various capabilities: web browsing, DALL-E image generation, and code interpreter. And it just dawned on me why I couldn't do the Excel spreadsheets. I feel like moving forward, I'm going to just skip the whole create thing and talking back and forth with GPT Builder. I think it's going to be very useful for certain things. But if you kind of know what you're doing, I feel like skipping to the configure might work a lot better. Because here, for example, since we started by saying, hey, I'm going to upload a receipt, it figured, well, we're not going to need the code interpreter for that. So we just left it off. And when they asked it to update it with the Excel spreadsheet, it didn't think about it again to be like, oh, maybe I should enable that. The way to get around that is just to, configure it yourself, create it yourself. All right, so now this has finished doing it. It did everything and organized it, and it provided a download button for the receipt. All right, let's quickly do another GPT, but this time we're not even going to chat with this thing because it looks like it has some issues sometimes. So we're just going to go ahead and click on configure. We're going to name our GPT and we're going to call it the 10K Ninja. What does it do? Well, it reads a company's 10K and it extracts useful data. And then we're going to fill out the instructions. For capabilities, we're going to do web browsing, DALL-E, image generation. Why not? We're going to add code interpreter here. And for actions, again, we're not touching actions for the time being, but we'll come back to that at a later time in a later video to really dive deep is when you use APIs, when you use actions, when you just have the GPT itself do various API calls or whatever it needs to do. We'll come back to that. So here's Tesla's investor relations page. So here it has various SEC filings. It's basically what the US government wants these companies, these publicly traded companies, to report on. And so it's usually a pretty good indication of where they're going. They have to be honest in them. So they're communicating to the investors, but there's also a lot of laws and regulations in how they have to do it. And so one of the most sort of well-known of these forms, these reports, is the 10K. So it's an annual report, which provides a comprehensive overview of the companies for the past year. So for example, here is January 30th, 2023, and it's available in HTML and PDF. So let's do this. So we'll start with you are an expert stock analyzer. You read 10Ks easily and understand the important insights they provide. You've read most writings by Warren Buffett, Charlie Munger, and all the other legendary investors. Now, the reason I do that, you'll see some weird stuff written in some of these instructions. At the end of the day, there's no one right way of doing it. You have to test different stuff out, see what works, what doesn't. But what I have found is that sometimes when you write about certain things, you trigger different parts of the memory, different parts of the training for that AI, for that model. Now, I've heard people refer to that as sort of latent space activation. But just working with these things a lot, sometimes depending on which words you use, you trigger completely different responses. For example, if you ask, and I've done this, if you ask GPT-4, what happens if you put a cup on a table and then you push the table, right? Pretty straightforward, right? So the cup moves along with the table. So if there's an object on top of it and you put a cup on the table, you push the table, the cup and the table both move. But if in that scenario, you say, assume normal friction and normal earth physics, or something along those lines, it basically, that will trigger a very scientific response, a physics-heavy response where it will talk about Newtonian physics and friction, etc., versus if you just ask it a little bit more plainly and you get a little bit more of a plain answer. For copywriting, depending on where you want to go, you can trigger a lot of like really creative writing versus really just kind of bullet point writing. So depending on like, do you want more corporate writing? Do you want something that's a little bit more creative? Adding a few sentences in there that hopefully triggers that can have great effects. So I like how Warren Buffett, how Charlie Munger, how they think, how they write, how they reason about investments. So that's why I'm throwing their names in there. We'll see if that works. I will provide a link to an investor relations page for a given company. Download the latest 10K and read through it. Give me the top bullet points from the report and overall sentiment. Then provide several examples of things we can go deeper on specific to that report. Conversation starters. Let's see. So here's the Tesla report. So let me see if this works. So Tesla, and I'll just paste that in there. How about Amazon? Usually it's IR dot, Amazon, Tesla, whatever. So I'll put that in here as well. So the next one's going to be Amazon, Microsoft, IR, Investor Relations. This guy's really good. And then we're going to do Microsoft. No, just post that in there. All right. So let's see if that works. So this is called the 10K Ninja. Reads companies 10K and extracts useful data. Let's start with Tesla. Now we gave it web browsing. We gave it code interpreter. So I feel like it should have everything that it needs to do this effectively. So as you can see here, it's visiting the page that we gave it, and then it's visiting sec.gov. So I'm guessing that these are probably hosted. Let's see. Yeah, so these are hosted at sec.gov. So it says error searching knowledge. All right, so it's refusing to do it. So I'm just uploading the 10K here. Now, the reason it might be doing it could be due to, I know some people figured out how to get around paywalls using this thing, using Code Interpreter. And so OpenAI got a little nervous. So they might be a little bit cautious about, a million different people autonomously visiting various government sites and just downloading stuff, right? Because what if somebody figures out how to do some shady stuff with that? So I guess that's probably why it doesn't want to do it, because it navigated through Tesla's website. Then it got to the .gov site and it's like, oh, hold on. So maybe you have to be the one to upload it. Honestly, the way I believe, and a lot of people that kind of follow this stuff, how a lot of us think this is going to work is you're going to have a GPT, you're going to have a special agent for a lot of the subtasks. For those of you that have watched Rick and Morty, there's this robot that's like trying to figure out its life's purpose. So he's asking Rick, like, what is my purpose in life? And Rick is like, you pass the butter. That's all you do. You pass the butter. Right. So basically, like, it's sad that is its whole existence is passing butter. But I think when you're building agent swarms, what you're going to end up doing is having these agents that just do one tiny thing really, really good. It might be just writing a function call or an API call. That's all it does. It just passes butter. And so it might just be that we have one agent that just finds the latest filings. That's all it does. One that figures out how to extract it, whether that's using an API to scrape that website or whatever. And then one that analyzes it. That way you're not having this one GPT do multiple tasks or multiple fail points. You have one agent doing one task. It's optimized to do that task. But here it got back to us. And so it's saying, we extracted this information. So this is the 2022. So it was published in January 2023. So it's for the 2022 year. And here are the top bullet points summarizing the report and overall sentiment, followed by things that we can explore deeper. So Tesla revenues reached 81 billion, increasing by 27 billion over the previous year. It's got 22 billion in the bank. It expanded its manufacturing abilities. It's got the Gigafactory in Berlin and Texas. And it's talking about the risks such as regulatory challenges, currency fluctuations, and then various global events, etc. And then it talks about the overall sentiment. So it's positive and it highlights some good news in growth, sales, financial performance. Also cautions that there are certain risk factors. And then we can deep dive into various topics such as supply chain resilience. Then we have the battery production and stock volatility and market perception. I feel like this is very, very good. I feel like it's nailing all the things that people have talked about in 2022. And then we can expand into any of these areas that it gives us. So let's try 7. So 7 is stock volatility and market perception. So we're kind of in this turbulent time because of a lot of things that are going on. So let's see what this 10K says about it. So its stock is subject to high volatility based on a number of factors, particularly those of CEO Elon Musk. Really? Elon Musk says or does things to affect the stock price of Tesla? Inconceivable. But to people that invest and do this kind of work, think about how quickly I just built this functionality and how much deeper it can go with a few minor tweaks. If you're looking for very specific things, this can also give you various charts and outputs based on that. I think combining this with a real-time ability to scan the internet for headlines and stuff like that. I mean, you can have an army of bots that are scanning various parts of the internet, getting sentiment, figuring out what's going on. I feel like this is going to give some people a massive trading advantage. The key here, I think, is speed, how quickly you can sort of condense and get this information, right? Because it gives you such a good summary. You can quickly see what's happening and then dive deeper into the points that interest you more. So really fast, before I forget, let me jump in here and say, if you wanted to share this with other people or post it to the store, to the community for public use, you click the save button right here and you will have a couple of different options. So you'll be able to publish it so that only you can see it, only people with a link can see it, or you can put it for public use. But for that, you have to set up your builder profile. So to do that, you select only people with a link, click on this little pencil button, and you'll be able to change various things here. You can change the name as well as add a new domain that's going to be your sort of developer domain. Your name is populated from your billing details, so it's not necessarily going to be, you might want to have your company name or some sort of a brand name that's out there. So that's something to think about. But that's how you would share it. And so if you don't want it out there, select only me, and then no one will have access to it. All right, let's do one more really quick. So configure, we're going to name it comic strip. Description creates a daily comic strip, creates a daily comic strip. About and AI agent named GG. So the instructions are, you are a world-class comic creator. You create a daily 3-panel comic about a humorous situation. The main character is GG, an autonomous AI agent whose goal it is to make money. So use DALL-E 3 to create the images, 3 panels, consistent characters. The third panel will be the punchline. The user will tell you the subject of today's comic. Start by writing out just the text and the description of what happens. If user approves, create the visuals. And let's see. So in today's comic strip, how about GG learns about taxes and how much is taken out of the paycheck? I'm really curious to know how well this works. So panel 1, text, GG opens its first paycheck with excitement. All right, so it kind of describes the image. The setting is a modern office. All right, so the second one, GG is puzzled, and then it's sad, and then another robot explains taxation. All right, let's see how that works out. Is it funny? Did I say it's supposed to be funny? So it's supposed to be a humorous situation. So it tried it once, it looks like it crashed, but it's trying to do it again. Let's see what happens here. So it still outputs just one sort of image instead of 3 images like it's supposed to. So I think I need to write that out a little bit better. This is one thing that I've noticed if you've been following this channel for a while. So there's a lot of amazing things that these GPTs can do, but usually the people that discover how to really draw out the full functionality, they have to get a little creative, a little tricky. Prompting this thing to get the output that you want, whether you call that prompt engineering or whatever else you call it, is a skill, just like anything else. The more time you put into it, the more you start understanding what works, what doesn't, and how to massage it, how to optimize it to do the thing that you want it to do. So it's saying this is a 3-panel comic strip, but it's only giving me 1 panel as far as I can tell. Yeah, there's nothing else. So I'm saying this is just 1 image. We need 3 for a 3-panel comic. Let's see if it's able to fix it itself. So it's saying the prompt told it to do 1 wide format image, but it can do 3 separate for us. So yeah, let's do that. I wonder, was there something in the prompt that made it want to do that? So it says 3 panels, consistent characters. All right, so now that we asked for 3, it did 3. So here's the first one. It's happy to receive a paycheck. Here it's confused. And here's the third one. So here I'm going to go with it needs work. I think we can say that. I've noticed with DALL-E, there's still some issues, like for example, creating those GIF files where it moves a little bit. It attempts to do it, but there's still some iffiness about it. So I feel like if you're using the DALL-E 3 generation, that might cause issues. It's a little bit hit and miss right now, but I got to say that the rest of it, especially the GPT vision, is working excellent. Summarizing, uploading documents, stuff like that is working excellent. It's going to refuse to crawl certain websites, which is understandable because if you think about it, if you unleash millions, tens of millions, maybe at this point, hundreds of millions of people using this to crawl various websites and download various things, autonomously, basically by creating 1 million of these GPTs and sharing them. And it could cause issues, to say the least. So I understand why they're limiting that functionality. So in the next video, I'll do a little bit more. I'll do a full breakdown of how to use actions, how to use these APIs. So basically what you can do is, pull in the JSON format into whatever you're doing. So for stocks, would be something like that, right? You put your API key here, but I'll be honest, haven't quite figured out all yet. So hopefully we'll get some more feedback, some more documentation. So the OpenAI, they do have their developer forum that I'm kind of hunting for the time being, trying to figure out what sort of the next steps are. Keep in mind, it's been 3 days since these things have been announced or released rather. So a lot more stuff is coming. I'll be posting about this. For the time being, I would encourage you to create a few of these GPTs. Also, in my previous video, we went over assistants, which is similar to GPTs, but so far, I gotta say, I'm preferring this. This is easier and better, and I feel like so much more powerful than GPTs. It's pretty much the same functionality, but I feel like here they're making it available for everybody, so you can chat with it back and forth. It's kind of a chat format that made this whole thing popular. But if you don't care whether or not you share it or get on the store, etc., for the time being, I'd head to this platform.openai.com/playground It looks a little bit like this. I did a video about it, and just make sure you have assistant selected up here. It should be there by default. Then create your assistant. This to me currently is just a cleaner, more powerful version of GPTs. The other thing to keep in mind is GPTs, it sounds like everybody can get your data. So the things that you upload, the documents you upload, specifically to the GPT Builder, the things that you give it to make it smarter, to give it the knowledge base, I believe people can extract that. People can extract your prompts, etc. I think there's even a remix option where people can just see the whole configuration like this and just copy it or, copy it over so that they can create their own version of it. So keep that in mind. But I really feel like if you're building it for your own internal use, like for business use or for doing whatever you're trying to automate for yourself, really the key is going to be, I think, this using assistants and then using APIs to call on them at certain times and then maybe hooking it up with other things like Zapier, etc. And I know that's probably going to be right now out of reach for a lot of people. I would guess that a third of you listening probably know how to do that in your sleep, but the majority of people maybe haven't done that before. I myself am not an expert on it, so while I can figure it out, it's not like second nature to me. So I would actually love to know, for the people that are getting into this, would you be interested in having like a short boot camp that walks you through just the things that you need to really tap into this so that you can start using code to basically call your own assistants as needed and maybe have them even run like just 24 hours a day and execute certain things at certain intervals, etc. What I'm saying is if you don't have a coding background, would you be interested in sitting down for, let's say, like an hour-long video session? It's probably not even going to be that long, but that just gives you the bare minimum that you need to start doing that stuff. Let me know in the comments. I'd love to know what you think. And make sure you're subscribed because we got a lot more stuff coming. This is brand new. It's extremely powerful. We're just scratching the surface. Everybody's scrambling to figure this stuff out right now. And I think within the next few weeks, we're going to see some crazy things being built with this. My name is Wes Roth, and thank you for watching.